that to the best of each board member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion authorizing the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting.
Second.
Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Osborne?
Yes.
Mr. Page?
Yes.
Mr. Alcaro?
Yes.
Dr. Berlin?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Chair Carlson?
Yes.
So moved.
Great. I'm going to jump off the agenda for a second here just to say, because I know we have a lot of people signed up for public comment. We had over the 10 allotted, and so the public comment time is getting shortened to 2 minutes. I want to let you know now so you can try to adjust your speech if needed. I'm sorry that that notification wasn't sent out, but the list has grown. So thank you. Okay, next up will be just a roll call of who's up here. We'll start with Mr. Holden and then just work our way around and say who we are and our name for those listening.
Ross Holden, School Board Attorney.
Rebecca Berlin, Whitehall District.
John O. Alcaro, at large.
Judy Lee, Rivanna District.
Katrina Carlson, Rio District.
Graham Page, Samuel Miller District.
Ellen Osborne, Scottsville District.
Sanuthi Amrisinghe, Student Representative.
Matthew Hawes, Superintendent.
And then we have the lovely Christine Thompson, who's our acting school board clerk. Next up will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And that will be followed by a brief moment of silence. Next up will be approval of our agenda. Can we have a motion, please?
I move that we approve tonight's agenda.
I second.
And then can we just do a voice vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All against? Next up will be approval of the consent agenda. Can I have a motion, please?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, can we just do a voice vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Next up will be announcements, and buckle up because we have quite a few resolutions today, but they're all good ones, and I'm looking forward to getting through them. So we are going to start with our Spotlight of Education, and that will be Sanuthi leading that.
Thank you, Ms. Carlson. I had the opportunity the other day to do a little research, and I discovered that during 2022, there were 34 meetings of this board. This estimate, of course, is only a snapshot of the dedication of school board members who dedicate many hours serving on important committees, visit our schools, attend community forums and conversations, interact with the myriad government officials on behalf of our students, families, and employees, respond to constituents, and participate in such important events as graduations and other celebrations at many of our schools. February is School Board Appreciation Month, and the theme this year is Rising to the Challenge. These words and responsibilities and the responsibilities they embrace could not be a more fitting description of the leadership, courage, and focus of this board. Each of you have made standing up for equity, excellence, families, and communities and wellness values in our strategic plan. Each of you have made this standard operating procedure. Despite appearances, this is never as easy as it sounds. Here's how the Virginia School Board Association characterizes this month. An opportunity for your school division and community to build a stronger understanding of the crucial role school boards assume in a representative democracy. As the student representative on this board, I have a unique vantage point with which to view this crucial role. I'm certain that there is no one in our audience this evening, in person or at home, whose life has been unlifted by the work of this board. One of our schools took it to heart the meaningfulness of this occasion. They made this board their own study of democracy. 4th and 5th graders at Red Hill Elementary School researched the role of the school boards and thoughtfully considered how you have changed their lives. In the spirit of representative democracy, I would suggest they speak for students across every one of our schools in expressing what your service has meant to them. Red Hill's outstanding principal, Nancy McCullen, is with us this evening, and she has some very special guests with her. I would like to thank Principal McCullen and her guests to join us at the podium and share with us their own insight and maybe a gift that say, thank you much more forcefully than can I.
Good evening. So I'd like to introduce you to some 4th and 5th graders from Red Hill Elementary who, as you just heard, learned all about the important role that you serve in making sure that they have the great school that they have and others have great schools in Albemarle County for students to come to learn and play. And so with me this evening, I have Terry, Bella, Emmy, Tony, and Carly. And in class, their teachers did a little lesson on your roles, how you were elected to represent us, and the different ways that you serve the community by being advocates for education. And they thought about the things that they heard and wrote 2 different letters to you, thanking you for the specific things that they wanted to tell you they were grateful for at Red Hill. And so Terry's going to start by reading the first letter.
Dear school board members, our 4th and 5th grade classes talked about the main things we are thankful for at Red Hill. A bigger gym, a new library that is bright and cheerful, technology like laptops and iPads, a safe school, a space to run and play outside, a great principal and charming teachers, field trips to the Frontier Culture Museum and Jamestown. Thank you, school board members, for caring about our education. Ms. Page's class, 4th and 5th grade class.
And now Bella is going to read a letter from her class.
Dear Albemarle County School Board, Miss Gunter's class at Red Hill wants to thank you for free education and for giving us the opportunity to build a family of friends at our school. Thank you for the opportunity to go on field trips. We haven't done field trips in a few years, and we had a lot of fun when we went to the Frontier Culture Museum. Thank you for our new library and gym. Thank you for all of our nice principals, teachers, bus drivers, custodians, and cafeteria staff. Thank you for all of your hard work for building our ACPS community. Sincerely, Miss Gunter's class.
Thank you, Terry and Bella, for representing all of your classmates, including those here today, and our whole school, and extending our appreciation to all that you do. We have Mr. Osborne is with us this evening, our assistant principal. We have a special surprise that we get to award you all with certificates from the state, sharing their appreciation for what you do for schools in Virginia. And our students are going to come bring you each your certificate.
Hello, everyone. We'd first like to thank and recognize Rebecca Berlin for her service. That's great. Hey, Tony, this one's for Mr. Jano Alcaro. We'd like to recognize you. And this is Ready for the next one? Bella will bring Miss Judy Lee her certificate. Katrina Carlson, thank you for your service. Thank you, Mr. Graham Page from the VSBA School Board. Miss Ellen Osborne, thank you. She's the last one. Okay. This one. And Kate's certificate is here. She's not with us, so we'll...
Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe we can leave that with Ms. Thompson and then...
Sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yep. Stay up here, though. Oh, no. Carrie, Bella, Carly, come. I think there might be questions. Anyone have questions?
My one question is, could we get copies of those letters? I would love a copy of those. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? I have to say, when I said we had good resolutions and announcements, I didn't know this was one of them. I wasn't trying to say this is what was the exciting part, but I did like that. That was probably the best one I've seen. Thank you so much. If you could come around and we can shake your hand, I think we'd love to do that, and parents can take pictures if they're here. So walk this way.
This way.
Thank you so much.
That was great.
Really good.
He always hands out her certificates.
Okay, so I know you guys are young ones, and one thing maybe you learned. Oh, did we turn them off? I was going to say, maybe you learned when you were studying, but the meetings last forever, so feel free to leave now that you've done your part.
I'll turn down the volume over there, too.
So I'm going to do, let's do you, Judy, me, and then we'll be done. Guys, is it on? Are we on now? Yes, it's hard to tell sometimes. Okay, so we have a series of resolutions. There's 3 of them, so you know how many to be expecting. We're going to start with Judy, move to Jono, then I have one, and then we will move into our public comment period. So Judy, Miss Lee.
Thank you, Chair Carlson. I don't want to follow 4th and 5th graders, but such is my lot. Whereas every 7 years, as provided for in the Code of Virginia, the State Department of Education is required to review and approve the history and social science standards for all public school divisions in the Commonwealth, and whereas these standards directly impact student discovery, understanding, and learning about the historical events, influences, and developments that have shaped our state and nation, resulting in a better informed and responsible citizenry committed to equality and justice under the law and the prosperity of all communities, and whereas these standards are at their most optimum, must advance within each student the knowledge and skills required to strengthen our democratic institutions, including the constitutional rights and privileges and protections of all, and the guarantee of equality and justice for all, and whereas these standards offer the opportunity for all Albemarle County students to realize the promise of our strategic plan that all graduates possess such vital and cherished civic, personal, and professional competencies as adaptability, anti-racism, creativity, critical thinking, empathy, and social justice and inclusion, and whereas the process by which these outcomes are best achieved is a collaborative one in which all voices are heard and respected, governed by the wisdom, experience, and judgment of those closest to the classroom, whose professional insight and student relationships provide them with a unique perspective on how to engage students in serious matters of study. And whereas just such a group of social studies teachers from across the Commonwealth came together over the course of an extended period of time to develop recommendations on standards that are responsive to the learning needs and the academic development of students in 2023 and beyond, and whereas this research and collective input were conducted at the behest of the State Department of Education in 2020, but unilaterally rejected by the State Department of Education in 2022. And whereas these actions have been described by the National Council for Social Studies, the Virginia Social Studies Leaders Consortium, the American Historical Association, and the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development as a breach of public trust, and whereas the Department of Education has put forth a set of standards using an approach described by the above professional organizations as lacking transparency and developed in isolation, and whereas this new version would return students to the rote learning that ill-prepared students for lifelong learning and success, contrary to the commitment of this board to all Albemarle County Public Schools students and families, and whereas these new standards contain such serious factual inaccuracies as describing the founding of the NAACP in the early 20th century as part of the Reconstruction that took place just after the Civil War, and whereas the proposed new standards for the next 7 years conflicts with the goals of the Albemarle County Public Schools Social Studies curriculum, which emphasizes project-based learning, student-initiated research, the use by students of primary sources, the promotion of critical thinking skills, the exploration and examination of the experiences and perspectives of all who comprise the history of Virginia and that of the United States, goals that we believe well prepare all students to be valued contributors to the success of their families, communities, and organizations, and whereas the State Board of Education will be conducting a public hearing on the Department of Education's revised draft standards of learning for social studies at Piedmont Virginia Community College on Wednesday, March 15th, beginning at 7 p.m., be it resolved that the Albemarle County School Board calls upon the State Board of Education to constructively construct a curriculum framework consistent with the established collaborative process that governed the development of learning standards for many years, and be it further resolved that the State Board of Education revise the proposed standards now before it to incorporate the recommendations of leading educators from across the Commonwealth with a strong emphasis on standards that are wholly truthful, inclusive, and inquiry-based, and be it further resolved that all interested parties be urged to attend and submit comments to the State Board of Education during the public hearing that will be conducted at PVCC next month prior to the board's decision on the new standards that is expected to be finalized on April 20th.
Thank you for reading that, Ms. Lee.
And now I get to follow fourth and fifth graders and Ms. Lee.
Mr. Alcaro, though, I'm going to pause you. That is something that the history standards, making sure we have truthful curriculum is something we've been focused on. I would love to have a motion just approving that resolution as being on behalf of all of us.
I move we approve that resolution.
A second.
And then can we just have a voice vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The floor is yours.
Whereas the Virginia School Board Association has designated next week, February 12th through 17th, as School Board Clerk Appreciation Week throughout the Commonwealth, and whereas the clerk of the school board here in Albemarle County is faithful to the fulfillment of the most important duties and responsibilities of this board, and whereas the responsible discharge of these duties and responsibilities are fundamental to the most sacred of public trusts, that of fair, inclusive, and responsive representation of the public interest and of those who elect them to office. And whereas the members of this school board and the interests of the Albemarle County community are best served by public participation on matters of primary public interest. And whereas there can be no higher responsibility than the education of children, and no greater benefit to a community or country than a well-educated populace. And whereas Christine Thompson, as the clerk of this board, has supported with great determination, skill, and adaptability board members and the public on these matters of primary public interest, including the facilitation of public participation with school board members. And whereas Ms. Thompson has made a difficult transition seamless through the exercise of these outstanding professional qualities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the third week in February 2023 be designated as School Board Appreciation Week in Albemarle County Public Schools, and be it further resolved that the members of the Albemarle County School Board offer their deepest gratitude and appreciation to Ms. Thompson for the exemplary manner in which she has served this board, this school division, and this county as a valued employee of our school division.
Can I just say, I know this isn't, Jennifer never spoke, bless her heart, but there's a young woman sitting straight across from me, Tanisha Thompson, who has helped me these last couple of months, who I would be remiss. I have been cranky, I have been sad, I have been sick, and I could not have done any of this to support you guys without that woman over there. So, Tanisha. Thank you very much.
So I made those flowers myself, and I will bring some the next meeting so that you get some too. The last resolution, and then we're going to have a quick announcement from Dr. Haas. This one is for Graham. So it's been school board, I guess, appreciation, school board clerk appreciation, and now we're going to say not our farewells, but our thank yous to Graham for serving as chair for 2 years. So, whereas...
One second, we need to have a vote on the last resolution.
Okay, can we have a motion to approve that resolution?
I move we approve the resolution.
Second.
Can we have a voice vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, all those in favor, aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next one. Whereas on January 12th, 2023, our own gentleman scholar, Graham Page, completed his service as chair of this board, which dates back to July of 2020. And whereas Mr. Page's leadership of this board was instrumental in guiding our school division through such transformational challenges as the 1-in-100-year occurrence of a global pandemic, the adoption of a new strategic plan, Learning for All, the continued implementation of one of the first anti-racism policies of any K-12 school division in our nation, a strengthened partnership with our Albemarle County government partners, and new strategies for recruiting and developing world-class education professionals. And whereas these accomplishments promoted the goals that Mr. Page shared with constituents when he first became a candidate for the school board, to support improvements in the quality of education provided to students, to consistently work towards and achieve parity in the quality of education delivered to students, and to ensure that the school division attracts, develops, and maintains excellent teachers and partnerships between schools and the communities they serve. And whereas Mr. Page, as board chair, brought an extraordinary degree of trust, collaboration, respect, thoughtfulness, and decency to the deliberations and decisions of this board, presiding over what has to be the largest number of unanimous votes in the history of the Albemarle County School Board. And whereas Mr. Page's long and distinguished record of public service includes his representation of the residents of the Seaman Miller District for 7 years and nearly a quarter century, not to give away your age, supporting students as a science teacher at Journey Middle School and Western Albemarle High School. And whereas the determination and accountability that Mr. Page has urged upon all of us to close achievement gaps, now the focus of a division-wide audit, to expand student choice in selecting fields of study that align with their career interest, which will happen in August, and to increase mental health services for all students, which has resulted in an increase in social and emotional counselors. And whereas Mr. Page will continue to be the conscience of this board as a representative from the Samuel Miller Magisterial District, now therefore be it resolved that the members of the Albemarle County School Board express our deepest gratitude for your contributions, Mr. Page, and the contributions you have made to the thousands of employees that we serve, the thousands of students whose lives you have influenced, and countless members of the Albemarle County community who benefit from a high-performing school division so vital to all of our future prosperity. And we made your gift.
Oh, really?
We're crafty now.
Thank you. Should I open it now?
Yes, you got to open it now. You just see.
Thank you so much, Chair Carlson. I'm almost like Bonnie Raitt at the Grammys. I didn't expect this at all, so thank you so very much, Ms. Carlson and the rest of the school board members. It's really appreciated. And the pedestal even has the symbol of the county on it.
This is Miss Osborne made that. Oh.
Thank you so much, Ms. Osborne. So thanks so very, very much. This is really deeply appreciated.
So I know, we have one more announcement from Matt. Thank you guys for bearing with us as we express gratitude.
I move that we accept that resolution.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you guys for bearing with us. Someone once told me when I was sitting that gratitude unexpressed is ingratitude implied, so I know it's taking up time, but we're just so thankful for everybody who we mentioned, and so thank you. And now, Dr. Haas.
So, again, I know we've got a lot going on, so I just really quickly wanted to give a shout out of gratitude to the staff and students at Stony Point Elementary School for having Mr. Page and Ms. Lee and me visit on Monday. We had a really wonderful visit, got to see a lot of classrooms, a lot of great teaching and learning happening in a wonderful atmosphere at the school. So thank you very much to Stony Point.
Thank you. So now we will be moving to public comment. I will be handing it over to Ms. Lee to conduct that part of the agenda.
Thank you, Chair Carlson. As you mentioned earlier, we are having 2 minutes for commenters tonight, so I apologize if that had not been your plan. We invite and actively seek the public's input in matters relevant to school board governance and provide time in our business meetings to hear from our residents and community members. During public comment, we expect respectful and on-topic comments. Disruptive behavior from speakers or from members of the public in attendance will not be tolerated. Anyone who willfully disrupts this meeting in a manner that prevents or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting may be ejected by the chair. Individuals and/or organizations wishing to speak during public comment must sign in with the clerk. Sign-up is available beginning at 9 a.m. on the Monday of the meeting week until 3:30 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Public testimony guidelines are as follows. Speakers should adhere to the following protocol. State name and address or voting district. Address comments to the school board as a whole. Limit comments to those matters that are relevant to school board governance or school division operations. Give written statements and other supporting material to the clerk. If you're unable to complete the presentation in the time allowed, a copy of supporting materials will be provided to school board members. Given there are more than 10 individuals, 18 tonight, signed up for public comment, each speaker will be allowed 2 minutes to speak. A color-coded light system is used to time presentations. The yellow light means the speaker is 1 minute into their presentation, and the red light means that the speaker is at 2 minutes and must wrap up. And we actually have 2 people on Zoom, so I'll be, I guess, waving. In order to maintain respect for all points of view, the school board requests no clapping, booing, or any other audible form of support or non-support be used. If members of the public wish to show their support for a speaker, they may stand or raise their hands. When multiple comments of the same topic have been presented, the chair may request additional comments on the topic be limited to those who have new information to present. Debate and dialogue with the school board are not allowed. With that, I will first read the list in order so people know when they're coming so they can sort of mentally prepare. As I said, we have 18 tonight, 16 in person and 2 via Zoom, so we're going to start with the in-person. First, we have, we'll have Tim Klobuchar, Sarah Harris, Vernon Lecti, Cheryl Knight, Liz Koenig, Mary McIntyre, Colin Squire, Melissa Brown, Chris Seaman, Elizabeth Nicholson, Sally Duncan, Amy Laufer, Meg Bryson, Jamie Bogdanich, Ari Zlotnik, and I apologize if I said those wrong, Jessica Taylor, and then the 2 Zoom people are John Keys and Brian Banyo. So I'll just start with the 3. So first we'll have Tim Klobuchar.
Hello? Hello. Hi, I'm Tim Klobuchar, an English teacher at Monticello High School. I spent 17 years teaching in Minnesota, one of 35 states in which law requires collective bargaining between school divisions and teachers. Simply put, collective bargaining is the way things are done in most schools, and it needs to be done here. The day after the city schools moved one step closer to collective bargaining at their board meeting, ACPS sent an email touting its willingness to listen to employee voices, citing various meetings, committees, and surveys. Up to this point, the division has made clear they see these as the preferred methods of interacting with employees and that they see collective bargaining as an unnecessary addition. But they have it backwards. Collective bargaining sets the floor. It is the minimum standard. It is also the one proven method to achieve a healthy working relationship between school divisions and their employees, leading to better experiences and outcomes for our students. All the other approaches, continue them. They will help things go more smoothly at the bargaining table, but they do not replace the bargaining table. We don't simply want to be heard, we want a contract. We don't want paternalism, we want a partnership. So that's why we want collective bargaining, but why would the division want it? Because, as former NFL coach Bill Parcells said, you are what your record says you are. Engaging in collective bargaining will help the division's record match who they say they are. The division says it listens to its employees, but it's fought against collective bargaining, which a vast majority of teachers said in writing they wanted. The division says they want to recruit and retain great teachers. Well, data shows that schools with collective bargaining have lower teacher turnover because of improved working conditions and teacher morale. These better working conditions for teachers equal better learning conditions for students. Numerous studies have shown collective bargaining has a positive impact on student achievement. Participate in collective bargaining, and the division's record will finally match its rhetoric in all of these areas. We know that adopting collective bargaining isn't like flipping a switch. It will require a lot of hard work. But this is not a moonshot. Over 2/3 of states have guaranteed bargaining rights for education professionals for decades. We understand the unique circumstances here, which is why we want to partner with the division to come up with a creative solution, just like the city schools. So if ACPS wants its record to actually reflect how they see themselves, they'll engage in collective bargaining with us. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Klobuchar. Next, we have Sarah Harris.
Hi, can you hear me?
Closer, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, my name is Sarah Harris, and I'm a parent of 3 ACPS students, and tonight I'm here for the teachers. I'm urging you to begin in good faith a process through which you and our ACPS teachers and staff can come together to draft a collective bargaining resolution. Last Thursday, Charlottesville City Schools announced its support for what is being hailed as one of the strongest collective bargaining resolutions in the state. Now it's time for Albemarle County to do the same. ACPS must go beyond the meet and confer model, which by the division's own admission was never intended to be a replacement for collective bargaining. I'm grateful to the school board members who have taken the time to sit down with educators and members of the AEA to hear directly how this process can work and what it would mean for their professional relationship with the school division. In addition to being a former teacher and current substitute in ACPS, I'm a co-founder of a local nonprofit, Forward Albemarle. We're an advocacy organization working to support excellence and equity in public education and to support our educators at a time when the profession as a whole is under incredible strain. Since launching last year, we have been approached by multiple ACPS staff members and educator groups asking for our help in advocating for particular issues or policies that directly impact their ability to do their jobs with fidelity and in the best interest of our students. While we're happy to provide this support and to advocate on behalf of the professionals who show up each and every day in a million different ways for our kids, I would much prefer to be in a position where our advocacy is no longer needed at the local level because our staff feel heard by the division that hired them and included in the decision-making process when policies and procedures are implemented. To retain the excellent teachers we currently have, to recruit new teachers we desperately need, and to show, not just tell, our teachers that we value them, it's time that Albemarle County Public Schools pass a collective bargaining resolution. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Harris. Next, we'll have Vernon Lecti.
Good evening. I'm Vernon Lecti, and I'm a teacher at Albemarle High School, and I'm the president of the Albemarle Education Association. The Albemarle Education Association is pleased to announce that a majority of our colleagues in a bargaining unit have committed to collective bargaining with the school board for their employment contracts. Therefore, please accept this as notice and certification that a majority of the licensed professionals now employed by the school board respectfully request that this honorable board vote to adopt the attached resolution authorizing collective bargaining within 120 days pursuant to Virginia Code Section 40.157.2C. We have verified the majority supporting the certification. Nevertheless, the Albemarle Education Association is ready and willing to collaborate with school board representatives if they wish to do so. within the next 30 days to further verify the majority support for this certification at a mutually agreeable time, place, and manner that does not extend the 120 days statutory deadline. We look forward to working with you to ensure a fair and clear process for cementing this new phase of our relationship. Specifically, we offer to participate in a joint task force between the AEA and the school board to collaborate on the development of a joint resolution. We submit as a draft the product of such a task force in a neighboring locality to demonstrate how this can work. And here's all our cards. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Mr. Lecti. Our next three commenters will be Cheryl Knight, Liz Koenig, and Mary McIntyre.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Cheryl Knight, and I work at Murray Elementary School. I have been an employee with Albemarle County for 25 years now. It's been a while. In fact, and I live in this city, just for the record here. I was going through my iPad notes that I've had for a while in Pages and going back and looking at, there's a school board note, and I went back and it was like 2015, I think, was probably the first time I spoke in front of the school board. So it's been a little while. I'm here in support of joining together with you all in working towards a resolution where we can set the tone and the stage for how we will work together. I love how our mission statement starts with working together as a team to accomplish our goals. And I believe that when we work together as a team, that we can achieve those things. And I think that we talked about collective efficacy today at my faculty meeting, and I think that's also a good model here of a way to build I can't speak. Collective efficacy is for us to work together. And that means that we know that we have capabilities within our group, and we acknowledge and we respect that others have something important to bring to the table. And that we also know that when we take the time to reflect upon what we're doing, that we can make improvement. And that is the whole idea behind collective efficacy, and I think that works in this situation as well. So I thank you for your time this evening, and thank you for your service to the school board.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. Next, we have Liz Koenig.
Good evening. My name is Liz Koenig, and I'm a secretary of the Albemarle Education Association and a teacher at Woodbrook Elementary. None of this is going to work unless you trust us, your employees. And I don't just mean collective bargaining won't work, I mean the whole thing. Raising student achievement, high-quality teaching and learning, creating inclusive and transformational learning communities. Each one of these 1,300 cards represents the voice of one of our division employees, trusting the AEA to come up and relay their message to you. The majority of your employees have the same message. They want the security and dignity of a negotiated contract. They want their labor rights recognized. They want to be partners in the task of creating a thriving work environment. They want to be listened to. As educators, we're often asked to do equity audits of our teaching practice. I urge you to do an equity audit of who you are listening to on this issue. What's their job title? What's their salary? If many of those voices are working in central office and make 2 to 3 times what TAs and custodians do, then you're listening to the wrong voices. I urge you to listen to the voices of your school staff. The cards represent voices of TAs who continue to feel the sting of new pay policies. The voices of bus drivers voluntarily working multiple routes, yet still have trouble taking an hour and a half off for family care. Special education personnel who are worn thin by the ongoing failure to attract and retain special education staff. Teachers whose extra labor goes unrecognized and uncompensated. People who signed cards believe things can change. They're hopeful. It should be easy for you to say yes. We have models now. Right next door, we have a school system working with its staff as respected partners towards negotiated contracts. But none of this will work if your employees don't trust you. Don't say no. Don't say not yet. you will lose the trust of your staff, and ultimately, students will lose teachers. Whatever you decide to do, we won't lose hope, and we won't stop asking for what we deserve, because we are Albemarle, and we stand together.
Thanks very much, Ms. Koenig. Next, we have Mary McIntyre.
Hi, I'm Mary McIntyre, Rio District. I'm going to read a statement from Bill Mack, a bus driver who no longer works for Albemarle County. I believe employee associations fulfill a need and in certain circumstances have an appropriate role. Collective bargaining for the Albemarle school employees is one such need that should be approved. Across all levels of school staff, there's a need for a centralized voice to represent employee needs. That voice should come from an outside source. If an in-house bargaining tool had worked in the past, we more than likely would not be in the current position that we are in, being paid less than our state ranking deserves. Teachers are paid less than districts with similar state testing results. The support staff would not be in the 30th to 35th on the pay scale when Albemarle County ranks in the top 3rd or 4th in the cost of living across the state. A quick Google search of other counties shows most of these comparisons. However, this is a two-sided coin. The other side of collective bargaining commits the entire school staff to keeping these rankings high, if not going higher than they are now. Essentially, no one loses with collective bargaining. Respectfully submitted, Bill Mack, February 6th. My own statement. I am the Vice President of the AEA, and I'm a member of the Employee Voice in Action Committee because I'm a team player, and I want it to work. I want to make it really clear, though, EVAC has potential to be good, but it can never give us what bargain contracts can. EVAC is limited to discussing issues that affect employees across the division, meaning specific things like elementary teacher planning time or bus driver safety concerns will never be fixed there. Bargaining can hammer out those issues. EVAC is still missing representatives from several schools and has managers and supervisors in the group, which can suppress employee voices. When we win bargaining, I think EVAC should continue as a labor relations group because even after new contracts are signed, employee voices still need to be heard. Please don't use EVAC as an excuse to deny us bargaining. They are completely different.
Thanks very much, Ms. McIntyre. The next three speakers are Colin Squire, Melissa Brown, and Chris Seaman.
Howdy, y'all. My name is Colin Squire, and for 2.5 years I was an Albemarle County public school nurse. And I thought that time acquainted me with how much work our teachers did for our community. I took it thinking it'd be a sort of cushy job to supplement my job as an ER nurse, and quickly was disabused of that notion while I was doing tube feeding and sucking tracheostomies and calculating insulin and giving rectal Valium to kids having seizures. But as much as I did as a school nurse, the teachers always did more for our students. And I thought I had a good idea of the role that they played in our community. But it's been the last 3 years as I've worked in the emergency department during this pandemic that really cemented to me the spot that they occupy in our social safety net. Now, I know a lot of you know how bad things got here during the pandemic because I told you personally while it was happening. I told you how close we came to joining our friends in Southwest and Southside and Shenandoah when their healthcare systems collapsed. And that didn't happen here, but it could have. If it hadn't been for the hard work and sacrifice made by the people behind me and everybody that works for the Albemarle County Public School District, we came a lot closer to the edge than I would like to admit publicly. And it was because they turned around on a dime and worked their butts off for our kids that we didn't become a statistic like so many other communities. Let's be clear, the folks behind me have deserved the right to collectively bargain since forever, right? That it wasn't because of the pandemic that they deserve it. They've always deserved it. But if it's ever been more clear about the hard work and place that they occupy in our community's social safety net, it's been made clear to me over the last 3 years. And I would encourage you all to reward that and give them the right to collectively bargain and get what they deserve. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Squire. Next, we'll have Melissa Brown.
Good evening, members of the school board, Dr. Haas, student representative. My name is Melissa Brown, and I live in the Whitehall district. I have been a teacher in Albemarle County Public Schools at Albemarle High School for 26 years. My children graduated from Albemarle High School, so I'm invested in this county. I care about the students. As I tell them, they are my babies that didn't give me stretch marks. Now, there is some truth to that. We're supposed to act in loco parentis, and we do. People behind me come in before their contract hours. They stay after their contract hours. So do not for a minute think that contract hours are all that teachers work, because it's not. We give up nights, we give up weekends, we give up time with our families for our students. All we are asking is for the school board to recognize that we deserve collective bargaining. We want a seat at the table. We don't want scraps from the table. So I encourage those of you who are on the fence about voting for collective bargaining to take a look at Charlottesville. Think about graduates from our universities who are going into teaching. Which school district would they choose? One with higher wages and collective bargaining, or one with lower wages and no collective bargaining? I think the choice would be clear to those individuals, and I encourage you to vote for collective bargaining. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Next, we'll have Chris Seaman.
Good evening. My name is Chris Seaman. I'm a resident of the Whitehall District, and I'm the parent of 2 children in ACPS. As a parent, an educator at the university level, and a community member, I'm here tonight to urge that the school board move forward with the collective bargaining process for our wonderful ACS teachers and staff. Collective bargaining strengthens public schools, our communities, and ultimately our democracy. All public employees should have the right to join together and fight for better working conditions. For teachers and staff, that includes advocating for smaller class sizes, adequate planning time, and sufficient classroom supplies. Ultimately, educators' working environments are our children's learning environment. In addition, collective bargaining is just good public policy. It will help attract and retain high-quality teachers and other in-demand staff, such as school nurses and reading specialists. According to the Economic Policy Institute, collective bargaining also promotes equity because it helps reduce pay disparities, particularly for women and people of color. And it helps improve student outcomes. According to a 2020 study in the Journal of Education Policy, quote, teachers' unions have a significantly positive association with student test scores in both math and English, particularly for Black and Hispanic students. Finally, in the current political environment, ACPS employees need the due process protections provided by collective bargaining. We have a governor whose administration has set up teacher snitch lines, attacked trans students, and is currently attempting to whitewash the teaching history of our kids. Our teachers and staff need to know that we have their backs in the face of these attacks. In sum, it is time to act. I urge you to work with the Albemarle Education Association and begin the process of adopting collective bargaining resolution immediately. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Mr. Seaman. The next 3 speakers are Elizabeth Nicholson, Sally Duncan, and Amy Laufer.
My prop. Hello, my name is Libby Nicholson, and I am a 4th grade teacher at Broadestwood Elementary School. I am also a proud graduate of Albemarle High School, Piedmont Virginia Community College, and UVA. Our class mascot is the honeybee. The honeybee is an amazing creature that has existed for thousands of years. I ask my students to be the best they can be. In 4th grade, we studied Virginia history, and Jamestown in particular. I shared how the honeybee was not a native to the United States, but was brought over by the colonists in 1622 to benefit the survival of the colony. Collective bargaining is very similar. We need it for the survival of my beloved profession. The teaching profession is in crisis. Over the 18 years I have been with this county, I have seen countless fantastic teachers, aides, bus drivers, cafeteria workers, specialists, and more leave due to the unrealistic expectations and lack of support. Collective bargaining will help with the recruitment and retention and with my beloved profession, not only to survive, but to thrive. As with the honeybee, we are all working towards the same goal. We all want what is good for the colony, students to succeed. Teaching Jamestown also connects to collective bargaining, where the majority of Albemarle County teachers have voted to elect a representative to negotiate better pay, working conditions, and most importantly, a seat at the table to obtain support for us to do our job and do it well, so we can all be our best. Jamestown was the first representative government. We want representation. Please agree to collective bargaining for the good of the colony. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nicholson. Next, we have Sally Duncan.
Hi, my name is Sally Duncan, and I'm a parent of several Albemarle students, but I'm also a substitute teacher within the district. Within that role, I've gotten to experience a wide variety of classroom situations and seen just how many people it takes to keep the schools running. There's teachers, there's ESOL teachers, special ed teachers, nurses for special ed students, as well as teachers' assistants, front office, and guidance staff, not to mention bus drivers and custodial staff. It's easy to acknowledge that people who work in schools work hard, but it's another thing to see it up close. If you have never substituted in the classroom, I urge you to do it. More than once, and I actually think that being a substitute should be a requirement of being a school board member. Working in schools can be difficult and exhausting, and all of these various people work incredibly hard, and they also are all potentially putting their life on the line for our kids. They deserve the right to have collective bargaining and have a say in what their working conditions are and what their compensation is. You, as school board members, should be partners with staff, not a roadblock, or even worse, people who actively make their jobs harder. So please vote to allow collective bargaining within our school district.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Next, we have Amy Laufer.
Good evening, school board members and Dr. Haas. I am Amy Laufer. I live in the Ravenna district, and my youngest son goes to Monticello High School, and I've addressed you before on this issue. Years ago, as many of you know, I served on the Charlottesville School Board, and before that, I was a school teacher, a public school teacher, and I know how daunting this may seem today, but I also understand how important it is for our teachers to have this collective bargaining. You know, even as a former teacher, when the schools were closed and I had my own 3 kids to teach middle school, which is what I taught, it was impossible. We know how hard the teachers work. They need this support. You know, our community strongly supports teachers in public schools, but that doesn't change the fact that public school teachers, administrators, and even school boards are being under attack. There is a national coordinated effort to ban books. There are pushes to punish those that properly teach history or help vulnerable LGBTQ+ children. Our own governor, as someone mentioned, had a snitch line with the express purpose of attacking teachers and banning what they call divisive content. The teachers in Albemarle County are asking for your support to help them with these outside forces. I know that there are many unanswered questions about this, and it's a difficult shift. While these are valid questions, the current situation in our Commonwealth requires that teachers get support because of these outside forces, and you are in the position to support them. We all know the value of a good education. We've all had education. If you protect our educational professionals, you will be making our division even more attractive to qualified teachers, staff, and administrators, which will only benefit our children and our community. And part of the reason I have to say I ran for the school board was I wanted to advocate for teachers. They are professionals, they deserve to be treated as such, and that's why I'm here today. I know that you are all up to the challenge, and I'm really grateful for everything you do for our community. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ms. Laufer. Our next 3 speakers will be Meg Bryson, Jamie Bogdanich, and Ari Zlotnik.
Hi, I'm Meg Bryson. I'm from the Samuel Miller District. I'm here to speak about the need for transparency in the school district's policies and decision-making. Specifically, I want to speak to the most recent school name review process at Meriwether Lewis Elementary. In the last school board meeting, Dr. Haas said, when we do that first survey, the majority of the community, when we ask them, what should the school be named after, they say after a geographic location. But then they turn around and say, keep the name that we have. Dr. Haas was referring to Survey 1. That survey asked, when reviewing a school's current name or proposing a new name, what naming categories are important to consider? And 3 choices were given: places, themes, or values. Nowhere in that survey were people given the option of people or historical figures or keep the current name. So yes, in that survey, people chose places because you literally did not give the option to keep the name. In Survey 2, when people were given the option to keep the name, 85% chose to do so. So to describe that as they say they want geographic location, but then they turn around and say keep the name that we have, is a gross misrepresentation of the facts. The other thing I would say about the process at Meriwether-Lewis is this. It is a fact that the Name Review Committee was assured by Ms. Waters that they did not need a unanimous vote. It is a fact that the Name Review Committee came back with a recommendation of 9-3 in favor of keeping the name. It is also a fact that they were then told, actually, we're changing the policy. You now need a unanimous vote. In other words, as soon as it was clear that the process wasn't going to yield the district's desired result, the rules were changed on them. Even my 6-year-old knows it's not right to change the rules like that. This must not be brushed off as a misunderstanding or a failure to communicate. This was dishonest to the point of being deceitful and manipulative. We would all like our schools' names to be a reflection of our community's values. You must realize that a new name given through such a dishonest process would be a very poor reflection of our values. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ms. Bryce. Next, we have Jamie Bogdanich.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Bogdanich, and I live in the Samuel Miller District. I'm here because I believe in community, and I believe that our neighborhood, school, and community thrive on relationship. And a healthy relationship is based on trust, transparency, and mutual respect. As neighbors, we should all strive for those qualities in our community, and the relationship between the school board and our community broke down in the decision to rename Meriwether-Lewis Elementary. The Albemarle School Board Code of Conduct states that as a school board member, number 1, I will have integrity in all matters and support the full development of all children and the welfare of the community, Commonwealth, and nation. It has become clear that no matter what input was provided by the community, there was a desired outcome by the superintendent and this board to rename Meriwether-Lewis. The results of the surveys included 85% surveyed selected Meriwether-Lewis as their first choice name. The name Meriwether-Lewis was preferred by 160 out of 321 students, over twice as many of those who voted for the second place name. And after an established community naming review committee voted overwhelmingly to keep the Meriwether-Lewis name, that decision was not accepted. In fact, when the desired outcome was not achieved, the review committee's input was rejected and the defined process was changed to meet the desired outcome to rename the school. My question is why? Why ask the community if you don't want the answer? Why put together a community committee if we're not going to accept the results? Why spell out a process on paper that's not going to be followed and can be modified to reach the desired end? Does this process that I described to rename Meriwether-Lewis instill integrity and trust in our relationship, or does it leave us wondering? If the guiding principle is integrity, and what took place at Meriwether should be revisited. If we can't trust a defined, written process for renaming a school, then what else do we need to question? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bogdanich. Next, we have Ari Zlotnik.
Hi, my name is Ari Zlotnik, and I am a school counselor at Red Hill Elementary. I'm speaking tonight to urge you to adopt the collective bargaining resolution. As a counselor, I truly believe that the pressures and workload that ACPS educators experience is unhealthy and unsustainable. This problem transcends individual schools. At Red Hill, I work with supportive administrators, amazing colleagues, and a community of wonderful students and families. However, last year, the working conditions survey showed that more than 60% of staff at my school reported symptoms of burnout. Although working with students has become more challenging since the pandemic, I think most teachers would say that it is not the students that are leading us to feel burned out. Rather, it is the piling on of unreasonable job duties without a corresponding increase in time or compensation. Our contracts are so broadly written that there does not seem to be a limit to what can be asked of us. I have worked over 120 hours outside my contract hours this year, and I have colleagues who work even longer hours than I do. Yet we still feel like we are drowning. Surveys, stay interviews, and the Employee Voice and Action Committee are not adequate to address the systemic problems that are leading to educator burnout. We need collective bargaining to give us a meaningful voice. Denying ACPS employees collective bargaining and substituting meet and confer instead is like denying citizens the right to vote and asking us to be content with a town hall. I have seen an increase in anxiety among the elementary students I serve in the past few years. One of our most powerful tools to help students regulate their emotions is to model emotion regulation ourselves. Yet the current conditions in ACPS make it impossible for us to be our best selves for our students. Collective bargaining would allow us to work in partnership with our leaders to make our schools healthier, happier places for educators to work and for students to learn. Thanks for your time.
Thanks very much, Ms. Zlotnik. Our last three speakers are Jessica Taylor, John Keyes, and Brian Vanyo.
Hello, my name is Jessica Taylor. I'm the proud parent of 2 ACPS graduates. I am also the president of the Charlottesville Education Association. The process we just went through in the city to come to a collective bargaining resolution both sides agreed upon was not without its struggle. It took time and determination, but because our board and Dr. Gurley believe in the value and power of the collective voice, we were able to finalize our resolution that the board has already announced it will pass at its March meeting. That's the core belief I think you are still missing. Collective bargaining doesn't mean that your staff are looking to get power over you. Collective bargaining means they want the power to work with you. They want to be at the table with equity of voice, speaking freely with solidarity about your collective vision. Teachers in Albemarle County Public Schools are viewed as objects of change rather than agents of change. You have made that happen. Your educators, nutrition workers, custodians, bus drivers, nurses, and instructional assistants come to work and give of themselves every day for the children of this county. They deserve the same rights to bargain for their contracts as other public sector workers in Virginia. It's happening in the city right next door. Dialogic action is the path to equity for your teachers. You can make that happen. I am available to answer any questions, provide any resources, or support you in any way personally or professionally that would move this district forward towards the adoption of a collective bargaining resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Is Brian Vanyo here in person? Yeah, I'm here. Okay. You can speak next.
Good evening. My name is Brian Vanyo. I live in the Samuel Miller District. I'm here to express my disappointment in a couple of events that took place at Burley Middle School this year, and to express my disappointment in 2 school board chairs who have lied about these events. On October 5th, Burley Middle School supported a student walkout opposing transgender policy proposed by the current governor. Burley administrators assisted in the planning of that event and also waived attendance requirements for students who chose to skip class to join the walkout. After the event, my daughter complained that no instruction was provided during this time. Mr. Page, you asserted that she actually did receive instruction. Last week, I learned that Burley Middle School sent emails only to members of the, quote, Black community, inviting them to an event catered from local Black-owned businesses to improve academic experiences for Black students. Such an event, on its face, is racially discriminatory. After inquiring about this, Ms. Carlson, you said that the event was open to all and was meant to mitigate barriers to learning for all students. That's not true. Regarding the walkout, I believe that school administrators should not encourage disruptive activities like this at the expense of classroom learning. Regarding the Black Student event, statistical disparities in educational outcomes do not justify racial discrimination. And I find the principal's statement that, quote, "the pursuit is equity, not equality," to be extremely objectionable. Finally, regarding the response I got from 2 school board chairs, nobody likes being lied to. I find your dishonesty insulting and offensive. I would ask you to stop the gaslighting, and if you're looking for a suggestion to improve academic outcomes for not just Black students but all students, let me offer this. Perhaps you should enforce policies that are designed to keep kids in the classroom so they can actually learn. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Vania, for your comments. And then we have one Zoom commenter, John Keys.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Hello. My name's Kirk Bowers. I have lived in Urbana, but I'm sorry, John Keys, excuse me.
Kirk Bauer.
Still, my kids went to Monticello. They had a great experience there. I think we all need to respect each other and our opinions, but to resort to intimidation, violence, and threats is totally undemocratic. It's unacceptable in any democratic society, and I will not tolerate it myself personally. So that's what happened. Just imagine somebody coming onto your property late at night and vandalizing it and doing a lot of damage. So, and then I would like to reaffirm my support for the board. Y'all are doing a great job, and keep up the good work. Thank you. I'm sorry to report this. There is a police report on it, and I did send you an email. Have a good evening.
Thanks very much. That concludes public comment, and I yield back to Chair Coulson.
One second, let me pull this back up. So, thank you everyone who gave public comment. I know that can be daunting, and thank you for coming out and sharing your thoughts with us. It's really helpful, and it's nice to hear voices, so thank you. The next thing that we have on our agenda actually says School Board Superintendent Business, which I think is a typo, but I'm just going to take this time to address, since we had so many comments, that we did discuss as a board, and what we're going to do is we're going to make this an agenda item on our December 23rd, sorry. Time's flying, it's not flying that fast. February 23rd, so not our next meeting, which is budget specific, but the meeting after that, so 2 weeks from now, and we will make it an item, and then we will discuss it then, so that you know what to expect. And with that, we're going to move to our 2 sessions that we have scheduled for this one, which is local government broadband and transportation. And you are forgiven for making your exit, because I know you're working hard. Do we want to just go and do a 5-minute break real quick, since we're let's do we're going to do a 5-minute break, since that took a lot of time anyway, and that will allow us to regroup and get set up. I saw looks in the audience, I'm like.
My notes
You
are
just-
better.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
I know I said the name.
As a school division, our priority is that our students have equitable access to the tools and resources they need for learning, and that includes internet connectivity at home. This evening's presentation is about the work being done to provide connectivity in our community and about how we as a school division work with Albemarle County Broadband Office towards that goal. On this slide, you'll see some of the ways that we work with the county on behalf of our students. We do all that we can to support and supplement the county's efforts. And now I'd like to introduce Jason Inofuentes, who will share with you the work and progress being made by the County Broadband Office.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, school board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you all and give you an update. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge that none of what we have accomplished would have been possible without the work that preceded us. That work includes the decades of service by my director, Mike Culp, who served as IT director while ably preparing the county to be a leader in making broadband affordable for everyone. That work also includes the efforts of Director Diggs and her team, including Clay Todd, Kelsey Whalen, and previously Bert Jacoby, who were prepared to act when the pandemic made the digital divide as evident as ever. So while I'm proud of the work that we've done, I'd like to acknowledge that it builds on work that precedes our office. I titled this presentation Connecting Communities because ultimately that's what we are trying to do. But in this instance, it is something to emphasize because students aren't just children in a household, they're a community in and of themselves. And so we take seriously the idea that their issues and concerns should be heard. This is a brief overview of what we're going to be covering. I'd like to give a quick history of our office. Our office was formed by Board of Supervisors action in spring 2021 in recognition that the influx of federal funding for broadband expansion grants would require further management to effectively capture and administer. Director Culp, who had effectively been serving as a one-man broadband office, while also serving as director of IT, opened the office that May, and I joined in September. About myself briefly, I first caught the public service bug as a volunteer EMT and later paramedic with the Charlottesville Albemarle Rescue Squad. After serving for more than a decade, I left the workforce to stay home with my children while my wife finished her training. I freelanced for several years as a technology journalist before obtaining my Master's of Urban and Environmental Planning at UVA School of Architecture in May of 2020. I was an associate with the county's Office of Equity and Inclusion before beginning this role. Our office takes the county's mission to enhance the well-being and quality of life for all community members and adapts it to our mandate. We seek to ensure that community members of all means have access to adequate and affordable broadband service. We highlight those three words as they were the guiding principles for all of our work. Access means that service is available to the community member. Affordable means that community members do not need to forego other essential costs in order to pay monthly broadband fees. Adequate means that the service meets the needs of the community members. The interplay between these three different goals is important whenever we consider interventions and actions that we can take. A solution that is unaffordable or inadequate or both is not worth considering. Our first year objectives included developing a plan for universal broadband access and establishing an affordability plan. In both objectives, we were very direct in our efforts. The VADI 22 award, that's the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative 22 award, granted to us last year, places us in a position to achieve universal access by the end of 2025. This grant is a partnership with Firefly Fiber Broadband, which is a subsidiary of the Central Virginia Electric Cooperative, and the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission. The partnership involves 13 counties total and is among the most ambitious efforts to address the digital divide undertaken in the Commonwealth. Additional broadband projects, including a pending VADI 23 application and future opportunities from the Commonwealth and the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, will fill any remaining unserved gaps. The key takeaway here is that every day, ACPS households that were previously unserved are being connected. For our affordability program, our first effort was to initiate our own Internet Essentials Partnership program through Comcast. This program provides no-cost broadband service that can be quickly activated and has been a mainstay of the school's efforts since early in the pandemic. Taking over administration for this program allows us to work with other community partners to expand its reach. The ACP Bridge initiative was developed with months of stakeholder engagement within the county staff to develop a supplement to the federal Affordable Connectivity Program. The ACP provides up to $30 per month towards monthly broadband costs for community members under a wide criteria for eligibility, including any DSS benefit, participation in the National School Lunch Program, certain veterans benefits, and receiving a Pell Grant. With average broadband costs in the area well above $30, though, the benefit was insufficient for our most vulnerable households. ACP Bridge, our program, using general fund appropriations from the Board of Supervisors, provides up to an additional $20 per month for ACP beneficiaries in Albemarle County whose providers have enrolled in the program. At present, Comcast is our initial partner, and we are eager to enroll additional providers in the coming months. As we entered our second year, we took an opportunity to revisit our goals and see if we could refine them to provide additional paradigms for future work. Our analysis led us to these three lenses: digital literacy, digital parity, and digital evolution. The American Literacy Association defines digital literacy as the ability to use information and communication technologies to find, evaluate, create, and communicate information. The internet is an incredibly empowering technology, but like most tools, it requires a certain familiarity. We have to know what tools or devices best suit our needs. We need to be familiar with the operation and troubleshooting of those devices. We need to speak the right language. The internet is a multi-ethnic and multilingual place, but so often, too often, tools are exclusively in one language. We even have to be familiar with technology culture, and crucially, we have to know how to protect our personal information while utilizing these technologies. In a global index on the topic, Tufts University defines digital parity as inequities in digital access and usage between the typically excluded and typically included, using three lenses: gender, rural, urban, and socioeconomic status. Broadband coverage is a layered topology. A provider may have excellent coverage. They may also have degraded or outdated infrastructure. There may be a fiber provider in a given location, but there may be no cellular service there. When we consider access and adequacy, it isn't enough for there to be a solution. There must be the right solution, and that varies across demographics for lots of reasons. Digital parity is a lens for evaluating the deltas between need and availability. Consultancy Highlands defines digital evolution as the ongoing gradual accumulation of change in an organization's process digitization. Suffice it to say, the pandemic forced most organizations, including this one, to advance their process digitization all at once. Digital evolution is about skating to where the puck is going to be. It is about asking the experts what the broadband needs will be 10 or 20 years from now and planning for that challenge. It's a response to the reality laid bare by the pandemic that broadband infrastructure in the United States has been playing catch-up. In the near term, our office has 4 objectives that touch on our goals and these new paradigms: to develop a regional digital equity plan, to develop service level metrics, to develop parity metrics, and to pilot an open access conduit project. Over the last several months, our office has pulled together a coalition of stakeholders and key champions from within the county, the city, and the university, along with many community partners with the shared goal of addressing digital inequities. Throughout our first year, every effort to collaborate with community partners faced the challenge of differentiating between non-county and county residents regarding efforts to support our community. It became evident quickly that working in silos was ineffective. By developing a plan that has buy-in from representatives within the city, the university, and the county, interventions can have an impact across the entire community. So far, this coalition has undertaken 2 major initiatives. The first is to partner with a cohort of UVA planning students to undertake community engagement through focus groups and conduct demographic analysis utilizing sentiment survey data that our office and the coalition have been compiling. Additionally, our office, on behalf of the coalition, has applied for a Federal Communications Commission grant to engage in broad outreach activities to boost the Affordable Connectivity Program. Across our area, only 15% of eligible households are enrolled in ACP. Boosting that figure will have a tremendous impact on thousands of low-income households. Awards are expected within the next month. As part of AC 44, the county's comprehensive plan update, our office will be working with partners in economic and community development to determine what the broadband needs of community members and businesses will be in the next 2 decades. These efforts can be a component of the comprehensive plan, establishing a benchmark for future broadband development, while also establishing a framework for prioritizing broadband funding opportunities. Contributing to those priorities will be the development of parity metrics. Our office will work with community members and county stakeholders to develop measures for parity, providing the framework to assess the extent of iniquities in broadband availability. This will be a vital component of our efforts to identify what areas, both geographically and technologically, require prompt intervention. One intervention that we have considered is the deployment of a network of county-owned conduit, which could be used by providers to advance our digital equity goals. Fully 80% of a broadband expansion project, of the cost of a broadband expansion project, is the cost of boring conduit into the ground. Our initiative would involve opportunistically placing conduit during road, sidewalk, or trail construction along advantageous routes. Providing access to this conduit to providers could improve network resilience, encourage provision of service to target areas, and increase competition, particularly in the development area. None of these objectives would be possible without our collaborators, and that includes the school's technology team. And that is true across all of our initiatives. So to discuss that more, I'd like to welcome Clay Todd to share.
Thank you, Jason. Good evening, and thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you again. To Dr. Berlin, it's nice to see you for the first time. I'm Clay Todd. I serve as the Assistant Director for Technology Integration with our school division, supervising the direction of various learning technology initiatives and leading our team of learning technology integrators. Tonight, I'd like to share some further details on the connectivity and the digital literacy programs offered by our division in support of the county broadband office's work. Regarding connectivity, we partner with the Broadband Office around our ACPS at Home program. Through this program, families who do not have internet access are able to work with school points of contact to attain connectivity through 2 possible pathways. First, families who financially qualify and live in the Comcast service area can be provided with no-cost broadband service through the Comcast Internet Essentials program. Due to the relative reliability and speed of this service, we encourage schools to explore this pathway whenever possible. This school year, management of this program was transferred over to the Broadband Office, who we work directly with to connect families identified by schools to get them the service that they need. Second, for any family who lives outside of a broadband provider service area, are able to request a cell carrier-based wireless hotspot through their school, regardless of financial status. These hotspots are centrally managed by the ACPS Department of Technology and provide a baseline level of connectivity sufficient for completing schoolwork, conducting research, or supporting other needs that a family may have, such as conducting job searches, contacting international family members, and so forth. Most of these hotspots you will find are located around the perimeter of our county, just given the lack of availability of broadband in those areas. Thanks to these coordinated efforts with the County Broadband Office, we have seen a significant and measurable improvement in the connectivity of our students to the internet at home. From the 2019-2020 school year until now, we have moved the percentage of unconnected students from 11% to 3%. This amounts to about 1,100 students being brought online during that time. These figures are based on data compiled by previous surveys of families, enrollment forms collected at the start of the school year, and additional data provided to us by the Broadband Office. Of course, these successes, while significant, are incomplete, and our efforts do need to continue. Indeed, 3% is still roughly 400 students, many of whom are located in regions of our county not serviced by broadband or wireless cell providers. We continue to explore options to close the digital equity divide and bring other families into the fold. These efforts include our digital literacy and digital citizenship initiatives. Indeed, without the knowledge of how to access the internet and safely navigate digital spaces, the impact of connectivity programs is diluted. Previously, Jason spoke to you about the steps being taken by the Broadband Office to increase digital literacy amongst the residents of our county. Our school division also continues to make strides in this area through curriculum and family outreach. ACPS has adopted a curriculum developed by Common Sense Education, created in partnership with Project Zero out of the Harvard Graduate School of Education. You may recall the presentation of this curriculum to the board last fall. This curriculum focuses on real challenges and digital dilemmas that students face today in the domains of media balance, privacy and security, digital footprint and identity, relationships and communication, cyberbullying and digital drama, and media literacy. Through this curriculum, students are encouraged to think about the proactive do's of cultivating healthy relationship technology while also developing their own cautious lens to navigate online spaces safely. This curriculum is currently being implemented in partnership with each school's learning technology integrator at the elementary and high school levels and is a part of our middle school advisory curriculum that was approved earlier in the fall. In addition to this curriculum, our learning technology integrators support digital literacy at home through various family outreach strategies. This includes the hosting of school and division-based technology nights where families can come and learn about the use of technology in school and strategies for supporting healthy technology use at home. We've also created and distributed our family field guide. I do have copies here for those that have not seen it if you would like. This is in English and Spanish and includes conversation starters and resources around digital citizenship, digital literacy, and we've also participated in many community outreach events across our county. This past summer, these collective digital literacy efforts led to our division being certified as a Common Sense district, a recognition which verifies the steps we've taken to increase the digital literacy and citizenship of our students. Indeed, the future in front of all of our students is one which necessitates navigating and adapting to the challenges of digital spaces in a healthy, safe, and ethical way. And our division, in partnership with the County Broadband Office, remains committed to preparing our students for this future. Thank you for your time, and we will welcome any questions that you all have.
Thank you. One question I have is, could you tell me what if school or schools are most proportionally affected by that 3% of kids who don't have access?
I don't believe I have that figure with me at the moment. I'm happy to go and get that for you. I do know that the majority of our hotspots, though, do, as I mentioned, tend to go to the schools more at the perimeter of our county, closer to the mountains and so forth, where there's just less broadband. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, I have a question related to that. Do the hotspots help those kids who are in that 3%? How many, what percentage do you know of the 3% would be affected or would be able to have access to the hotspot?
Of the 3% that remains, it's typically determined by the school themselves as to who actually needs it. So when a teacher or a family member contacts the school, or a teacher learns that a student can't complete homework, so on and so forth, they reach out to the point of contact in their building. If you're looking for the hard numbers there, I can certainly take a look in our system and get a better sense of that. The truth of the matter, to some extent, is that there are some students who live in areas geographically where cell service does not reach. So Verizon, T-Mobile, your typical cell providers, and that's who powers those hotspots. So if there's no service through a cell provider and there's no broadband service currently, there is not a way to reach them. So that is the majority of those 3% are in those geographic locations that just don't have access to that service, and a lot of that is the work that Jason's office has been doing to get into those areas. Does that help answer your question?
That's help. Thanks.
Great.
Do we have any other questions? Yes, if a family doesn't speak English or Spanish, your guide there, what resources are available to them for understanding this?
Regarding our guide, it is all available digitally, and we do have our UDL tools that are available to every student. That's Universal Design for Learning, which are able to screenshot anything and translate it into any language offered essentially through Google's translation services. We are looking at other platforms that reach particularly some of our students that speak Pashto. That is not currently a language offered by the Google translation, but is by Microsoft, so we're doing some some more investigating into that as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Todd, back in the way dark times, but I'm talking about 2016, in comparison, when we were trying to put a program, broadband together for the school division, we were told that we had a wavelength, I'm going to get this wrong, of about 2.5 gigs.
CBS spectrum. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And whereas Verizon and all the other providers were about 30% of that. I know things have changed, not at our particular house because we've got lousy DSL, I mean lousy phone lines. But what are we looking at for the students in the system, whether they're on coax or they're over the air reception? What are we up at for speeds for students?
I think that your question would be better answered by Robert or Jason. I am an educator by trade and don't quite speak the technical language that I think you're asking. So I'll bring one of them up to address it.
I'm happy to expand on that. So the key takeaways to our first year of work, like I said, are one, a plan to achieve universal access. So one of the, and it truly is an accomplishment, one of the things that we're most proud of is that work is currently ongoing so that those furthest reaches of the county where there are no cell phone towers, where there is no provision of service that is at all reliable, they will by 2025 have access to fiber broadband service to their homes. And so what we're working towards is making sure that no matter the condition, no matter the situation, that service will be affordable to those households. And that's involves working with the partners to make sure that they have plans that are vary in price, and to make sure that we have affordability programs in place to make the most of those opportunities. So in the first case, how can we make sure that those locations are connected? We have a plan and we're working on that. I think to the other point that you're making about utilizing EBS spectrum and other spectrum assets and other solutions, one of the reasons that it's so important to have a coalition working on this, and that's what the RDEP, the Regional Digital Equity Plan Coalition, is about, is so that partners can come together and to a certain extent put their cards on the table and say we have these resources. And it's in the connecting of those resources that you can make best use of technologies like EBS and another similar program known as CBRS, Community Broadband Radio System, that leverages not just the spectrum, but you have to have something to feed that spectrum. And so I know Robert has extensive awareness and knowledge about the school's assets, and so it's one of the reasons why our office relies on the school system for partnership in utilizing these assets to their best ability.
Thank you. I hope you don't mind if I ask Robert, do you have a sense of speeds that kids are getting now?
So the speeds related to the FCC standards are really the target for the broadband. Of course, fiber optic is the gold standard for providing those. And I believe it's the FCC starting to target 100 megabits.
So the federal, I tried not to get too technical on the presentation. The Federal Communication Commission lists 25 megabits per second down and 3 megabits per second up. And I usually carry a prop, which is an old iPhone 5, which is about 10 years old, to demonstrate, like when it was brand new, that was the speeds that you could get from that device. That is, that is not much. And so the FCC definition is a little outdated. We have set a standard of 100 megabits per second down and 20 megabits per second up. That is our target. And in fact, we strive for a target actually higher than that. But the speeds that students in served areas are getting are at a minimum 25 megabits per second down, 3 megabits per second up. Anybody that has received an intervention through our broadband expansion programs, they have available to them up to a gigabit per second down and up.
Great. Thank you for the quantification. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any additional questions? I have one quick one, which is just when you were talking about the programs where it's $30, which doesn't cover the amount, and then you do an additional $20, does that come directly off their bill? Is this just how do they get that? And is there an arrangement with the provider to make sure that rates stayed locked at an amount, or that they can't just increase them $20 and then get your 20?
So that program, the reason that it required so much stakeholder involvement within the county is because we wanted to make sure we did it right. So we brought in the Department of Social Services and met every week for about 4 months to talk through and work through how to craft a solution that didn't have a negative impact on vulnerable households by risking their benefit eligibility, generating taxable income, or burdening administratively either the providers or our office. We're a small two-man team, and so we wanted to make sure that nobody was going to find themselves with their internet cut off because we weren't administratively capable of fulfilling our promise. So the program that we structured requires partnership with the providers. They commit to providing the statement credits. So the resident just sees a credit on their bill. The other thing that we're relying on is that providers, as part of the ACP and as part of participation in American Rescue Plan funds and IIJA funds, have to commit to providing a low-income option, so a low-cost plan. And that gives us the opportunity to make sure that even if that low-income plan is at $50 rather than $30, households should be able to afford it with the combined supplements.
Okay, great. Thank you.
If you don't mind, Ms. Osborne, I feel like I didn't fully answer your question in terms of the translation of our field guide. It is on my roadmap to extend the translation of that document to other languages. We certainly in the last couple of years have had quite the influx of students internationally, and we have the capability to work with our ESOL office to translate that document into other languages as well. So that is also on the roadmap in addition to the current solution, which is the screenshot readers to do so.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And did you say you had copies of something that you could distribute to us? Or?
Yeah, it's the same field guide that many of you have seen, but I'm happy to send it around one more time. All right, yeah, I'll send it down. Sure.
Your kid didn't bring you one? It's still in his bag.
It might be. So, thank you so much for that presentation. That was helpful information for us to know as we move forward. I know that we've had some conversations around expanding internet access for our students, so it's exciting to know that we're making great progress, and it sounds like we'll continue to chip away at the remainder, the 3% that we need to reach. So, thank you. The next presentation will be the transportation update. We are behind schedule not because of me, because we had so much public comment and we took a break, but we're not doing too bad. We have 20 minutes scheduled for this, which should hopefully get us out by 8:40. And then we'll be good.
Can you stay that long, Sanusi?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Oh.
I apologize for you being at the end of the meeting. The last person is...
No problem.
It's usually Mr. Zimmerman, but he's not here.
It just means we're agreeable at this point.
Okay. Well,
there's extras.
you ready to start?
Okay, I don't. Do you?
Hi, Charmaine.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, and you'll probably be up before any of us tomorrow morning, so thank you for staying so late.
Sure, you're welcome. Thank you. We're ready? Good evening to the members of the school board. Thank you for the opportunity to present updates concerning the status of the transportation department. I was here before you in August, and I had provided updates on each consent agenda since. The data we have consistently reported on your consent agenda is also attached as an attachment to tonight's agenda item. Tonight, I would like to provide an update on what has occurred since the start of the school year and plans going forward. It has certainly been a challenging year I'm grateful to our drivers for their dedication, to our students. They are doing an amazing work with not enough people. Bottom line, it would be no transportation department without them. I'm also grateful to our students and their families, school staff for their patience and continued support. As we look at the strategic plan of the school division, Learning for All, the transportation department primarily aligns with Goal 3, equitable and transformative resources. Each school and department has annual improvement plan. I would like to highlight here the goals of transportation, the Transportation's Department Improvement Plan. Our goals are decrease driver vacancy rate. We have partnered with HR to launch an advertisement campaign. We launched the first video Monday, February the 6th. You can expect to see more advertisement via social media, newspaper, TV commercials, and radio. In addition, we are planning a job fair. Secondly, improve student management support for our drivers. This is something they've asked for. We are working with the professional development team to improve responsive classroom training or to implement responsive classroom training for all drivers transporting students. Lastly, improve engagement through employee recognition. This is part of our Gallup survey. And we asked our employees, what's important to you? And so recognition was at the top of the list. The department has revamped the engagement committee. It's called Teams. The group works to develop strategies and implement more frequent events and team building exercises. This is one of the events we had today. Everyone shared in, we had fun. We were fortunate and happy that our superintendent came out to share with us. Okay, so I would like to elaborate on our efforts related to recruitment and retention. First, thank you for the driver's increase, the pay increase. It is our endeavor to be competitive. This increase, along with the salary step scale, has set us above the surrounding counties. As stated, we're launching an advertising campaign, and the slogan is, your future rides with us, to include job fairs and recruitment events. In addition, we will link with our community partners, such as the Virginia Career Works, the International Rescue Committee, PVCC, UVA, Career Services, etc. As part of our retention efforts, we are conducting stay interviews for existing staff. We have also created 2 new positions with the intent of supporting recruitment and retention. Our staffing update. Here is our latest staffing information. This chart shows the different types of driving positions, the number of staff positions in each type, the number of vacancies, and the vacancies rate as a percentage. We currently have 131.5 driving positions staffed and 30 vacancies, 11.5 of which are home-to-school routes. So since the start of the school year, 12 routes have been consolidated, 7 drivers have completed the training and started a route, 5 drivers have resigned or retired, and 0 drivers have been terminated. We haven't terminated anyone. 7 drivers are currently in training, and 3 drivers are in the hiring process and will start March the 6th. Our driver shortage. When we think about the driver shortage, it isn't an Albemarle County issue. This is just one headline of many you can find about the challenges school districts are facing across the country. and finding enough drivers. This slide is a summary of our on-time arrival data as reported in our regular board updates. The bottom line is our most recent data. During the week beginning January the 30th, of the 251 morning routes, about 96% arrived on time or up to only 15 minutes late. The remaining columns break down the on-time arrival rate and how late the other routes are arriving. I acknowledge we are not meeting our 98% goal on-time arrival, but I would also like to commend our staff for making lemonade out of lemons. They are achieving this data with an almost 30% vacancy rate. Our drivers are doing double back runs, they are splitting out runs, our technicians are driving, our routing team is constantly reviewing routes. We are doing everything we can with the people we have. Our fleet update. We have some exciting updates to our fleet. Our first electric bus has arrived. It's assigned at Greer School, serving the Georgetown community. We must keep the route miles within 100 miles between the charging morning and afternoon. The second electric bus will arrive within 2 weeks. In addition, the Type A buses will be assigned to various locations throughout the county. As a reminder, the Type A bus is a smaller capacity bus which does not require CDL to drive. Lastly, I would like to end with highlights of our plans going forward. The department is actively and strategically working to ensure students arrive to school safely and on time. These are some options that we're reviewing: outsourcing, recruitment and retention, walk zone, route evaluations, and bell schedules. We will share more details with the board as we work through our plans and continue our evaluation of these options. That concludes my presentation. What questions do you have for me?
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you very much for your department's work. So when you said that we have a nearly 30% vacancy rate, is that because of the long-term medical absences?
Say that again, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
When you said that we have about a nearly 30% vacancy rate, is that in part because of the long-term medical absences?
Yes, exactly. That it includes that as well.
Okay. And I'm very glad that we're looking at those ideas for next year. Is there, do you have a sense if we're going to get to the 98% goal this year?
We are certainly striving. Each month, we are evaluating and looking at our applicants pool. We are hitting recruitment with everything we got. That's what this campaign is about, and we're hoping that once we make the announcement, and we made the announcement, but we want to do more advertisement around the step scale. So I'm hoping that when we put the message out there and begin to just talk about it more, we'll get more applicants, and we can see a difference in their on-time arrival.
Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation. But with the resignations, were you able to determine any reasons for why the people those people left the county or left the system?
Aside from the personnel issues, of course, that I can't discuss, I can't share, some life situations changed for them, and they had to make other decisions regarding continuing to drive a school bus. Some long-term sickness, and so for those reasons, they made the decision that they needed to leave.
Okay, no, thanks.
Could you talk a little bit about is it the Type A4 buses and how many we have and how you might be using them as a way to?
Presently, we have about 4 Type A buses, and so what we're trying to do with them, with our special needs community, if we're able to, for example, if a route does not have a wheelchair, and we're able to combine or put some students on those buses, we can then utilize the type A buses on those routes and shift those drivers over to vacant routes who have a CDL license. That's one way we're using them. Another way we're looking at is on some of our double-back runs that are really long, and we're getting the children to school late. So somehow or another, we can maybe split out some of the run and get our children to school on time.
How many, without wheelchairs, how many seats are on those buses?
It all depends. You could have anywhere from 16 up to 48 passenger on our special needs.
I have one other question. How popular has the 8-hour position offering been?
We have not seen a lot of movement with those positions. Some of the employees some of the applicants had applied until they realized that they would need to work in another department, but we haven't seen a lot of movement with those positions yet.
Are there any additional questions?
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Charmaine.
Thank you.
I had one quick one.
Okay.
When are we going to get another update just to keep parents in the loop? Because I know it sounds like we're undertaking a really big effort right now to drum up this last bit or drum up more interest and get more bus drivers trained. You talked through the pipeline, but it's sounding like we might be in a very similar position at the start of next year. When are we going to get the next update about what is going on and what?
Okay, so we can certainly, we're going to report back at your next meeting. We're going to give you the information, and then we're open and flexible to hear how you would like for us to get that information out to the community. Certainly, we will let the families know, principals, administration, and the families know where we are. So it's whether it's through a bright arrow message or whether we're meeting with our administrators to talk about how we need to communicate that information to our parents, we certainly can do that. So the community, so families and everyone will know where we are in transportation concerning our bus routes.
So that would be my second question that I wasn't going to ask because I didn't want to extend, but I was to say, what is the communication between you and the school? So like when a bus is going to be late, when the 15 minutes late, I mean, how do you communicate with like school principals?
Okay, so how we do that, and I'm going to be transparent, we have struggled in that area, getting the bright arrow message up. We don't always nail it the way we should with our bright arrow message, but that's how we do it. We get the message out through our bright arrow message. Now, sometimes the call come in so last minute that we have to pick up the phone and call the administrator and say, this is what's happening. So, but we're working on those areas to make sure we are improving, and we're working on it. The more we know and we can plan, the better we can communicate the message.
Awesome. Those are all my questions, and I think we're going to have some thank yous for you. I cut some people off when I asked my question. I think Dr. Haas was going to say something.
Oh, no, I got to say thank you. I snuck it in.
I have seen the TV commercials, and they really are pretty effective. So I hope that they'll be able to bring in some new drivers for us.
I hope so, too. We're certainly going to do more.
Thank you so much for the
Sure.
hard work you're doing. You can tell, and I can tell you're having to pivot and be creative, and you're doing hard work, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
And your colleague, is this your colleague in the back? Yes. Yes, who stuck around. Thank you. That concludes, well, let me just check the agenda, make sure I'm not missing anything. Is there any other school division business? Okay, that concludes the meeting. We are adjourned.